I was asked, like Mike said, asked several months ago to speak this morning at this prayer breakfast with what I understand hopefully will be a theme for the next several of them we have, where different members will get up and talk about what they do, special interests they have, their career, their jobs, and how it relates to being a Christian. So I think that's going to be a theme for the next several. So maybe if you have a hobby or skill or your profession, something you do, you think it'll be a good talk. That's kind of the idea or plan, I think, for the next several of them. I am a police officer. I've been an Oklahoma City police officer for over 20 years now. I came from a family of teachers and farmers, but when I came out of the Army, I did 24 years in the Army and Army National Guard combined, most of it before I got on the police department. Came out of the Army and didn't really have any skills other than applicable to becoming a police officer is the most likely fit for me. So kind of got me started on the road to law enforcement. I'm currently assigned to the airport. There's about 20 officers from Oklahoma City that are assigned to the airport unit. 3 shifts, cover 24 hours a day, but there's about 20 of us and 4 supervisors. We work out there and deal with the lot of lost and found property out there. We get the occasional drunk, disorderly passenger that doesn't want to cooperate or fly right, I guess you could say, and things like that. Mental patients, traffic situation, things like that. We handle that at the airport. I work 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 11 at night. Oklahoma City works 10-hour shifts and works 8 days on, 6 days off. Same for patrol. Most people love that shift. I said 8 days on, 6 days off, basically work a week and off a week, and I love it. If you go to schools or any other specialized unit or detectives, they work Monday through Friday. Apparently no crime gets solved on the weekends. Have to wait till Monday, but I love working that 8 to 6, 10-hour shifts. Get kind of long, but kind of got used to it. But that's what I work out there at the airport. I also kind of one of my specialties or niche that I've settled into is impaired driving enforcement. I teach every one of our academies the rookies how to do the roadside test that you see, walk the line, touch your nose, and those kind of things, standardized field sobriety test. And I'm a drug recognition expert, which is specifically drug impairment. Most officers, when they go through their training, are trained on how to recognize alcohol impairment and do that enforcement. But there are only 200 right now, about 200 officers in the state of Oklahoma qualified to do drug impairment evaluations. Called DRE, and I teach that. I've been an instructor, drug recognition instructor now for 15 years. Troopers, anyone in the state that in the last 15 years that's learned how to do this skill, I've been an instructor. They've had to come to our school. We do north side of the city from all over the state. I've had officers and troopers from other states that are trying to get their program started come in and train them. So that's kind of my specialty. I've gotten into and I really enjoy it. It's a challenge to take someone that, an officer will call me and goes, something's not right with this guy. And 30, 45 minute evaluation, I can tell them what category or what drugs, combination of drugs, alcohol and drugs, prescription medication, whatever they've taken, and it's causing that impairment. Or if it's a medical condition that looks like, sometimes a diabetes episode or mental health will look like drug impairment. So kind of a niche or specialty I have. I usually work several days a month doing traffic or DUI enforcement. Up until I got injured in May, I was working a traffic enforcement shift. It's a federal grant. The federal government pays different departments to enforce traffic, so it's a federal grant program. Working that, stopped a guy for running a stop sign. He decided to try to run from me, so it was a short pursuit. And what he did, just go back to this house where his family was having a big barbecue in the front yard, so pulls into the driveway. And where he had backup, and I didn't right then, pulls in and decides he wasn't going to jail, so he started struggling, fighting in the front yard. passenger gets out of the vehicle and jumped on my back, so I was fighting both of them at the same time. And long story short, they both went to jail. I tore my elbow up, and I've had elbow surgery back in August, and still healing up from that. But before that time, I was working DUI and traffic enforcement shift. I said I kind of enjoy doing that type of investigation and helping other officers out that don't have that training. I also am a CIT officer, which has mental health training, dealing with mentally ill people. A little bit more extensive training in how to deal with mentally ill. And in Oklahoma City, we have, everywhere, we have a lot of people that need that kind of help, don't stay on their medications and things like that. So that's another area that I work in. I used to teach defensive tactics to our academy and other agencies. I'm 53 and I had to get out of that because I don't heal as fast as I used to. I know some of y'all can relate to that. You don't heal as quick, bounce back as quick at 53 as you did at 25. So kind of got out of that. And I also a member of the chaplain's assistant team. Oklahoma City has several what they call peer support teams that deal with issues officers have in their family or personal life. Sometimes they need counseling, things like that, with the things that go on with the job, stress of the job, or family issues and things like that. So it's kind of a chaplain's assistant team, kind of involved in that, and enjoy that. It can take a toll on you, but that's another aspect of the job that I kind of enjoy helping out with. I brought some of my tools in, kind of a show and tell, some of the things that an officer would carry to do their job. Oklahoma City recently went to a nylon belt instead of the leather belt, which saves some weight. One thing that's a big issue with most law enforcement will tell you is wearing all this gear adds about 25 to 30 pounds, depending on what kind of boots you wear. With leather or nylon gear, changes the weight of it. I've dropped down from 2 handcuffs on the street to being at the airport, I only carry 1. But I've got another one in my bag because frequently large people, you can't get their hands behind their back with just 1 pair without dislocating their shoulder. Which when I was younger, I wasn't so worried about, but now to be more politically correct, I try to make them as comfortable as possible when they're still going to jail. That makes sense. I have to fill out a customer service card later on. I worry about their opinion and make sure they have a good experience while they're being incarcerated. So there's a lot of weight to this. I've got carry a taser, a can of OC spray, and when I went through the taser training, to carry a taser, you had to get tased. You had to get pepper spray to carry a can of pepper spray. Fortunately, they didn't make us get shot to carry a gun. That's probably been a deal breaker for me, but I would rather get tased any day than get pepper sprayed. Once they turn the taser off, it's like nothing happened. You remember it, but there's no lasting effects or anything else. You get pepper spray, that can last for days sometimes. Headache, and if any of you ever been to the gas chamber or been sprayed, it hangs around. It doesn't go away. I would much rather get tased than pepper sprayed any day. A radio, our radios are the 800 megahertz, probably heard on the news about all that, with the intention we could switch to any other agency and talk to Choctaw from Oklahoma City, or it kind of works. I can flip over and talk to OHP, the troopers, if I need to, if there's something going on to other jurisdictions. It's a lot better radio than I started out with. We could only talk to the person pretty much next to you. Flashlight, rechargeable flashlight, it's pretty standard. Like I said, handcuffs. I carry an ASP, which I can honestly say I've never used to hit anybody with. One thing is being a defensive tactics instructor is if I start hitting on somebody with this to get them to comply, then I've got to do something with it when I go try to put handcuffs on them. And it's always been a problem for me. If I'm going to have to go hands-on anyway, I'll use pepper spray or something else, and then I don't have to worry about sticking a tool or throwing it on the ground, have somebody else pick it up and start hitting me with it. So I've never used this, and that's just, like I said, mainly because I don't want to have to deal with what you do with it after you use it. It's handy for prying somebody's arms out from underneath them, like a crowbar sometimes. You'll get people that put their hands underneath them, laying on top of their hands. You don't know if they have a weapon or not, so sometimes it's handy to kind of help get their hands out from underneath them where you can handcuff them. But I use mine most frequently when I'm leaving the jail. I can can roll my window down and hit the button to get out of the county jail without getting out of my car. It's really handy for that. And I've gone back to carrying a 9mm. On the street, I carried a 45 Glock. And I want to get a discussion about what gun's best. Whatever gun you can hit the target with, I think is the best gun you need to have to know what you can do with. But I've gone back to carrying a Glock 17 9mm. That's what I was issued, and it's lighter weight. And at the airport, I also carry an AR, so I have the ability to with a long-range gun. So going back to a 9mm on duty. My badge, let everybody know I'm the police. I brought in one of the mounts for a body camera. Big issue. Wearing body cameras now. All first having body cameras. Ours, this is has little pins. Goes under your shirt, and these pins go through your uniform shirt and tear it up really nicely. Now you got to replace your uniforms from the body camera bouncing around. They're trying out some magnetic ones that don't punch holes in your shirt, so that's a good thing. But it's another issue is having to go in at the end of your shift and log all your videos and categorize them and things like that. But body cameras are a good thing, in my opinion. If you're doing the right thing, there's nothing to worry about. I don't have any problem at all having a dash cam body camera. All it does is help me. I can take that to court and show what an idiot that person was being instead of he said, she said, my word against theirs. So body cameras are a good thing. Most officers don't have any problem wearing them or using them. I've got a maximum restraint system. If somebody starts kicking with the handcuffs on, I had somebody kick my back window out last year. A block from county. I was almost there, and she laid back in the seat and kicked my window out. And this is good for someone that's being that aggressive or violent. You can put one strap around their feet, the other one goes around the body and clip them together, so basically they're hogtied. You're not allowed to connect the handcuffs to their feet because that can cause positional asphyxiation. Every now and then you hear about somebody dying in custody. If someone's really drunk or impaired, putting them face down in your back seat, their chest can't expand and they can't breathe, so that's how some of that happens. But this is designed to, their hands are still separated from their feet. They're not tied together so they can still breathe. And this is fun getting on. Usually it takes 2 or 3 officers to get something like this on, but it keeps them from kicking you and kicking your window. If they're spitting, this is a spit sock. These are fun to put on if someone's trying to bite and spit, but this basically goes over their head. They can spit all they want. It's just going to stay in there with where they are and get their face all slimy. So that's a good thing to have. Back in the old day, we just took their shirt and pulled it over their head, but that stays on a little bit better. A ticket book. I've had this one since I started for over 20 years. And I used to collect inspection stickers that were expired or bogus and put them on there, but I kind of quit doing that for writing tickets. So that's some of the tools. Oh, I've got, I think I talked about my taser. Oklahoma City's gone to the 2-barrel taser. I can fire 2 cartridges without having to reload, which is handy. That one I can toggle between which taser is getting electricity. So if I'm fighting someone in the front yard and I tase the boyfriend on our domestic, and he's trying to get up and down, I can tase him. And if a girlfriend runs out with a chair or something trying to get involved, I can give both of them a zap and toggle. If he's behaving, she's not, I can toggle between who's not compliant or not, so it's kind of handy. But those are the cartridges that go in that taser. And my vest. I brought 2 different kinds. These are the panels, the Kevlar panels that go in it. You can look at it later from an older vest I had, obviously. And these are the newer vests, which are quite a bit, still pretty heavy, but it's quite a bit lighter than the vest I started out with 20 years ago. Or if you've been to combat, the sappy plates, ceramic plates, is way lighter than those were. That's kind of some of the tools. I said I brought for show and tell. If you want to come and look at it, you can if you're interested. Some of the tools of the job, there are a lot more. Usually most guys, their trunk is full of stuff, paperwork and things like that. I worked around Bricktown, around water, so I've got a throw rope to rescue people that are drowning, and you have a lot of different paraphernalia like that you got to carry around and keep up with. That's just kind of some of those tools. Before I get into kind of the challenges, kind of devotional, some of the scriptures that mean something to me and how I do my job, that part of it. Any questions so far from anybody on anything? Yes, sir.
As an Oklahoma City police officer working at the airport, how do you deal with federal regulations like that?
It's a challenge. We work with TSA, our department. There's security, airport security. So you have multiple entities that sometimes want to tell you how to do your job. But we do pretty well most of the time. A lot of it depends on who their supervisor is. They have weekly meetings between all the entities that work at the airport to kind of make sure people are on the same sheet of music. They've had a lot of meetings, that you brought that up recently. Open carry or constitutional carry goes into effect here in a couple weeks in Oklahoma. Being at the airport, they allow people to bring pistols in to fly with. So there's a process there where they allow people to bring guns in to fly, get on an airplane. They have to be in a locked box and all that, but you're allowing people to bring weapons into a federal facility, which by the new statute is prohibited. So there's a lot of discussion between lawyers and meetings concerning those things, which is common. They have weekly, sometimes daily meetings between all the entities out there to figure out how to deal with certain problems at the airport. Since we do have, usually on criminal matters, the feds we advise them if we have somebody that's committed a crime or brought a large amount of drugs or something like that. I got two stolen guns at the airport last year. People bringing guns into their luggage is a common thing, and we advise the federal government. They'll get their information, and we usually never hear anything about that. But usually we advise them, but they defer to us to handle the criminal side of it.
So do they have federal marshals out there at the airport that you can get a hold of?
We can contact them, and if they feel like they need to come out, they'll come out. Yeah, we have FBI, have the FBI numbers. There's a federal security director over Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and Lawton, kind of do it regionally. He will come out if he feels like he needs to, but normally we advise him over the phone. They let us handle the criminal side, put him in jail if we need to, or tell us. Frequently they'll come out and do an interview at the airport and then let us handle the put him in jail or not put him in jail thing. So we usually advise them. They'll either decline to come out or something like that, and we'll go from there. But it's pretty common.
Sometimes have U.S. Marshals fly on flights that are armed.
Right.
How do they identify themselves as you guys? I mean, I guess it might be this is the PSA and all this related. Just showing badge or something like that.
Right. If there's a training that officers are required to go to fly on a plane, all the air marshals, federal marshals, and some just regular law enforcement, if they want to fly with a gun on a plane, they can go to the TSA school. And once they've got that, TSA gives them a number. They have a federal number. And once they have that, they can be armed, concealed. But they show up at the checkpoint, check in with TSA logs them, and they go on their way. Pretty simple process. If they don't have that number, haven't been through that training, they're not going to fly with a gun. They put it in a check bag and everything with everybody else. There is a method where an officer can, if he needs to fly for business and hasn't been through that school, they can clear him. But the 2 cases in 5 years I've seen, it took almost all day for them to call up the hire and get the feds to do what they need to do to clear an officer to fly with a gun. But the marshals, all the guys that fly regularly, they already have that training in place. So, yeah, the guys that regularly fly the air marshal and stuff, they've already been through that training, so they just check in and TSA clears them.
Do you have to make many arrests during the day service out there? Seldom or very often?
We don't. About 3 or 4 times a week, we'll have a drunk and disorderly situation. Usually it's in the terminal, which changes things. If they get on a plane and they create a disturbance on a plane, they're going to jail. That's a federal crime. Usually the feds will decline to file on it. They'll defer to our local. We'll do a city ticket or misdemeanor arrest on the city side. But since it's a federal crime to disrupt commercial travel, those people go to jail. If they just get drunk and disorderly in the terminal at the ticket counter or something, they still may go to jail, but they strongly encourage us or like for us to try to have them call a family member to get a ride they don't like for us to arrest the traveling public if we don't have to. So we typically, unless someone's just being totally belligerent and uncooperative, we try not to arrest them. But usually, about twice a week, people go to jail for, typically it's they come to the airport, they've had too much to drink, or their flight gets delayed, they'll sit in the bar and get drunk, and then they get disruptive and belligerent, and they'll go to jail for public drunk for 24 hours. We don't have a whole lot of arrest up there, but it does happen.
Do they still serve alcohol for the plane?
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, like I said, one of the big regular problems we have is there are 2 bars in the Oklahoma City airport, and when someone's flight gets delayed, they'll go sit in the bar for 3 or 4 hours, and those bartenders are supposed to limit. Some of them do a good job, some of them don't, about limiting someone. If someone has a 2 or 3 hour delay and they sit there and drink, they're going to be drunk. Right, which I said, from my viewpoint, I don't know why they allowed that to happen. They're just creating a problem that we have to deal with, but it is what it is. Anybody else have any?
Isn't there a prison transfer point out there?
Right, on the back side of the airport is the Federal Transfer Center, and it's connected by runways and things like that. Being an airport officer, when I went out there, I thought we just patrolled or took care of the terminal. We actually go over and deal with things at the Federal Transfer Center frequently. They had a bunch of protesters at their gate last week. The FAA Training Center, we respond over there. The Air National Guard Base, they got where they handle a lot of their stuff on their own with their police officers, but we respond to all those business on the back side. The Federal Transfer Center, occasionally we'll get somebody at the front gate creating a disturbance, or the protesters or something like that, so we go over there too. We used to respond to Wiley Post. The airport officers their jurisdiction was all the airports in the city, but it would take me 45 minutes to answer an alarm out there, so now they're going to just letting officers that patrol that area. They give them the training and let them handle it. But that, the airport property goes all the way down to 104th. There all the hayfields are, and things like that, and a lot of drunks crash into the fence down there, and work wrecks and things like that around the outside of the terminal as well. And now that we've got Amazon, FedEx, and a lot of those terminals around, we have a lot more issues with employees getting mad at their supervisor. We have to go over there and get terminated. There's a lot going on. It's a lot busier job than it was 5 years ago when I started out here.
Well, since they've added all those entities out there, are they looking at increasing the size of your force out there and all that?
No, sir.
You just have to drive one out.
They've given us more dispatchers and they have given us more of the traffic enforcement. You see them in Bricktown called PSDs. They wear a brown uniform and they're Oklahoma City employees, but all they do is deal with traffic, keeping traffic flowing and write parking tickets. They've given us more of those. But there's no plan to add more officers. They already think they're paying us too much money anyway. So they've added more security guards, but there's no plan to add any more officers.
Well, on the prison deal, don't the prisons supply guards for that?
Yes, yeah, and they handle everything within the transfer center. But the periphery, the parking lot, or the gate, things like that, we'll have to respond to incidents there. Occasionally, they'll have somebody, they'll fly commercial for whatever reason, and they'll have us escort them when they change the guards out, things like that. We'll have people come in on shackles to the airport. We'll pull them into our office and let them change guards or whatever. So we do some of that too. Different agencies transporting people by commercial flight. Yes, sir.
I'd like to thank the Oklahoma City Police Department. I belong to the Patriot Guard Riders, and a lot of time we do dignified transfers out there.
Yes, sir.
And Oklahoma City and Highway Patrol is always there, and a real pleasure to work with.
Right. We try. Y'all got a special place in my heart because when those remains come back and things like that, it's great. Families always say they appreciate you guys showing up there doing the escort, and we love doing whatever we can to make sure they get close intersections or whatever we got to do. So, fortunately, we don't have as many of those now as we did when the war was still going on, but it's great to see you guys out there in force, escorting family and all that. Anybody else have any questions or issues? I want to talk briefly about some of the challenges, some of the lessons I've learned, how it applies to me. I think the point of this is, for all of us, how we continue to be a Christian, or how our job, profession, what we do affects our walk as a Christian. I want to talk about some of that briefly, some of the challenges of being a police officer and still being a Christian, being a light to our community and things like that we're supposed to do. And it is a challenge. My job, law enforcement, can become very dangerous unexpectedly. You have a lot of moments of pure boredom, and just in a split second it can become extremely dangerous and you're in a chaotic situation. Statistically, until the last few years, statistically, traffic accidents, officers get hit by cars, and traffic situations were as dangerous as gunfire. That's kind of changed. Last several years, more officers have been killed by gunfire than traffic accidents, but statistically, most officers have to worry more about traffic accidents, getting killed or hurt that way. So it's a dangerous job, a job where you can be killed. And that constantly being vigilant, even when something isn't happening, when you're in uniform, you're representing the public, or you're a law enforcement officer, people treat you differently, and you have a constant vigilance of just being aware, being ready for something to happen. And even if it does, that in itself takes a toll after a while. You find yourself having trouble sleeping. The stress gets to you, and can have an effect on how you deal with your family. Even when you're off, you still keep that vigilance, still have that stress. You can't just turn it on and turn it off. So that's something that takes a toll on you. Constantly dealing with criminals. You deal with criminals, evil, inconsiderate people in chaotic situations. That can, and it does, make a lot of officers become burnt out or just have a negative outlook to other people. It makes you suspicious. It's something that makes you a good cop. Doesn't make necessarily a good neighbor and a good friend. You're trained to be suspicious of people and not take what they're saying at face value. People lie to you. You question other people, their motives and things like that on your job. Sometimes that's hard for some officers to turn off when they're talking to their kids or their family or their friends. So that takes a toll, and the stress of that can affect you. One passage, if you want to look it up with me real quick, that I carry with me, I try to remind myself of, is in Matthew chapter 6. Should have mine ready here. Matthew chapter 6, starting at verse 16. I'll read this. This is something I try to remind myself of. Starting at verse 20. I'm going to start with verse 19. Sorry, Matthew 6, starting at verse 19. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon the earth where moth and rust consume and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust does consume and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where thy treasure is, there will thy heart be also. And this part right here is important to me. The lamp of thy body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thy eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? No man can serve two masters. And skipping down to verse 33. But seek ye first his kingdom and his righteousness, all these things will be added to you. Be not therefore anxious for the morrow will be anxious for itself. Sufficient to the day is the evil thereof. I especially like the part, or remind myself the part of, if you're focused on the negativity, focused on the bad things in life, it makes you a negative, unhappy, bad person. If all you do is sit at home and watch the news where they constantly tell you how bad things are, you're gonna feel bad. So I try to make a conscious effort, and that I try to remind myself on my job is that I'm the light of the world. I'm representing Christ, and I think that's something all of us can carry with us. We're a light to the world. Some people, the only relationship or contact they may have with God or the gospel is us, and that's something I try to remind myself of. Not be consumed or not let the evilness, bad people that I deal with affect me negatively. So that's something that I struggle and try to. It's a conscious effort. It's a diligent thing that I have to do, because there are times where, like I said, you get burned out. You get tired of dealing with that negativity and that element of people all the time, and there's plenty of it out there. One thing about the job that I do like is I realized early on I come in contact with people in chaotic situations, and a lot of them, because of what they're dealing with, they're at a position where they're open to talking about spiritual things. They're at a point in their life where something traumatic has happened to them, they've lost a loved one or something like that. And so they have that brief window where they're open to talking about where they're at in their life, where their life is going, what direction they're headed. And I try to use that to talk about, do you have a church family? Do you have a verse in the Bible that you like? And some people, they're open to it. I'll pray with them. So also, I don't know how many people I've taken to jail while they're in my back seat. That's the first time they've examined themselves in their life about what they're doing. They're in handcuffs, they're going to jail, and it's all of a sudden hit them that, man, I never saw this outcome when I started down this road of using drugs or something like that. So I've had quite a few backseat devotionals on the way to jail, if you would, because people are all of a sudden in that position. They're open to talking about what direction their life is headed, the decisions they've made, and try to take advantage of that. So I look for that. Not everybody's open to that, and it's not the norm, but frequently people, like I said, when they're in that situation, their life has taken this turn or something bad has happened in life, for that at least a little bit, they're open to talking about what their life means, where they're at, and examine themselves. One more thing and I'll wrap this up. Some of the happiest people I've ran into are people that didn't have anything any possessions financially or anything else, and that's kind of been a lesson for me. We can be happy anywhere we are. Rich people have problems just like poor people do. Everyone has something they struggle with and has problems, and it's what's inside us is where happiness comes from. If we rely on our happiness to be our environment, then we're only going to be happy as long as the environment's perfect. But some of the happiest people I've ever ran into had nothing. That's just a choice that they made. That's how we deal with life. For better or worse, that's what I got. Anybody else have any questions or comments or anything? And hopefully, yes, sir.
How does your fellow officers treat you or interact with you knowing that you're a Christian?
Differently. Have some that don't want to talk to me or have anything to do with me, and I work around some people that are, I would say, Bible thumpers, for lack of a better word. They're preachy all the time and judgmental, things like that. So yeah, that tends to turn people off. If someone is open to it, I'll talk about it. If someone's cursing, use a lot of profanity and talking like that, I'll walk off, and that bothers people. People notice that, and so there's people that I work with that don't want to be around me because they have to watch what they say, or it makes them feel uncomfortable. So yeah, it changes how people talk to you or deal with you.
I would like to say that there's been a few times that I had a niece that lost her way, and so I go to visit with her in jail, and most of the people in the jail they treated us like we were the criminals. Well, I can kind of understand that. I mean, the kind of job they have and the majority of the people they deal with make them feel that way.
Right.
So I could give them a pass on that, but also kind of felt sorry for them. Because of the attitude they had, because they were almost forced to have that attitude because of their environment.
Almost for their survival, they had to see people that way, but that's kind of what I was talking about. Corrections is even worse, I think, than law enforcement, because they're stuck in there for their whole shift with nothing but criminals. I at least get to interact with normal people to some extent, but I think it's a conscious effort. You have to put effort into getting out of that mindset of, okay, not everybody is like the people that I deal with. But you're absolutely right. I'll find myself from time to time just not want to deal with people. I want to get away from people. You know, if one more person tells me another problem that they're having, when you deal with it as your job, settling other people's problems and issues, you get where you have very little patience with people's problems. And so it takes an effort to stay positive. Harold?
I was gonna say, I think Oklahoma City is a blessed place to have services for people like you, to protect us and keep us safe, such a sweet attitude about helping people. We're greatly blessed because of your service. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I couldn't do it without the public support. It would be an impossible job without people's support of it. I think Oklahoma City has a lot better relationship with the community than a lot of places I've been. You know, I've traveled around law enforcement training and stuff like that. There are a lot of cities that are just some hatred. And I don't know how you do your job when people hate you that way, but we have a really good relationship around here. And I think it's a lot of, I said, I was trained, when going through my training, I remember them teaching us to know your people, get out and interact with people. It's a community team effort. You're serving the public, and I think some places have lost that. So I think it's a lot of, it's a two-way street. If you watch the media, you get the idea that every other officer is corrupt and, you know, has no patience and has no self-control. But I learned, it's a shock to me early on how far the media gets from taking a story and putting their own spin or just untruth. The media is full of just complete untruth. They'll take a little bit of an evident incident and make it something that never even was. So the majority of officers, you know, my experience, everything else, they're trying to do the right thing. They do the job or get into that job because they want to help people. They want to serve. It's a reward to be able to help people through a chaotic situation. And so most of them get into it to help other people. There's a few that get into it because of a power trip, but those type of officers, from what I've seen, most of them that it's all about them and being in charge. They don't last very long in patrol or dealing with the public because they don't have the backup of people around them and things like that. Most of them that survive very long in patrol or in service of the public are doing it for the right reasons, the majority of them.